Hey, it's Alan here.
And Bree. And we are the hunter and the hippie.
Connected through yoga and bonded by our love of the wild places and the love for outdoors, we've come together to share our conversations about life.
Well, maybe more so what we've learned or are continuing to learn about life.
And there's no one way to do it. Life, that is.
And hopefully provide you with some teeny tiny bits of inspiration to connect deeper with yourself, others, and our great Mother Earth.
All right. Enough already about the podcast. Let's just get to the podcast. All righty, we're here.
Here we are.
Morning episode. Morning episode.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for it.
I know, now my backdrop won't like creepily turn dark with my limited lighting.
Your one bulb that you move around the house.
Right? Oh man.
Such a bachelorette.
I like to call it minimalist.
Yep. Same thing.
As you can see, I don't have bedside tables. One thing hanging on the wall.
It's easy. It's easy. That's all that matters.
You know. Yeah, I don't need things.
Mm-hmm.
Less is more.
Absolutely. It's so funny, like how long it takes to learn that, for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is totally getting off topic, and we're not even doing our breath yet. But yeah, like for so long, I was all about acquiring things.
Yeah.
And now, like, we met some friends, and like we realized how they lived, and we're like, oh, this is nice. And then it was just like, yeah. I want to get rid of shit. I don't need shit.
Yeah. It's energetically overwhelming for me to be in spaces with a lot of stuff.
Yep. It is. When it was crazy when we moved from Arizona 5-6 years ago. We had the largest U-Haul truck possible. And I thought that was going to be enough. We moved from like a 2,000 square foot house. I thought that was going to be enough. And we got like halfway through packing it. Mm-hmm. And we had like a whole army of people helping us pack. And everyone's like, Alan, I think you're going to need a bigger truck. I'm like, no. And we get it like 3/4 full. And I'm like, oh shit, I think we need another truck. So when we ended up moving, we ended up like with the largest U-Haul truck. And then the second to largest or something like that. And we said, Jess and I joke, but we're wholeheartedly serious about it. If and when we move again, we're just selling everything. Yeah. I don't need any of it. Mm-hmm. Whatever.
Move into your car. That'll make you,
I bet.
I did have a storage unit. I can't claim that everything I owned was in my car, but I had the smallest storage unit just for my bed and like a random chest that I didn't want to have to like repurchase.
Yep. But it's total like
boxes.
Marie Kondo, like, right? Like hold it, see if it brings you joy, right? Like you really have to be honest with yourself in that moment. Mm-hmm. You know what? Fuck it. Get rid of it.
Well, and we are so used to having everything or then having access to it easily. And back in the day, if they didn't have something, they figured it out without it, and that was, of all the things I got rid of, there's definitely some moments where I was like, oh man, it would be nice if I would have held on to that. But I then figure out, or if I do really need to acquire that thing again, then I, at that time, will get it. But
yep, for sure.
Simplicity.
Absolutely.
I guess that'll kind of go on to topics. Simplifying.
Yeah, it does. It does. All right, get us started.
All right, let's get started. So finding a seat or a comfortable position, and then closing your eyes or softening your gaze. And bringing your awareness into your natural breath. And noticing how your breath feels in your body today, in this moment. The quality of your inhales and exhales. The depth of your breath. The cadence, texture. Noticing which areas of your body receive your breath and which areas soften as you breathe out. And bring awareness to that slight pause at the top of your inhale and the slight pause at the bottom of your exhale. These natural transitions in your breath cycle. And in that pause, notice the stillness. The stillness in all transitions. The rising and falling of thoughts into another thought. And we'll take one deep inhale through our nose and open mouth exhale. So deep inhale, filling all the way up, pausing at the top. And then on your exhale, letting it all go. And fluttering your eyes open. And coming back to our podcast.
Thank you, as usual, for that.
Yeah, thank you for breathing.
Yes, absolutely. So, what are we talking about today? I don't think either of us really know.
I know, it's morning time. So what did you do this morning, Alan? Tell me all about what you do in the mornings.
Oh, man. So, yeah, we'll talk about my morning routines. So most mornings I try, right? Like I always try to give myself grace when I don't do it. But for me, my morning routine is really important for me because it sort of sets the tone for my day. And yeah, it just allows me to get right within myself, depending on how I wake up. Right? Like I could wake up as my own worst enemy and could wake up feeling good. And no matter what, like my morning routine really helps to just bring myself back to center and go on with my day. So alarm usually goes off. So it used to go off, sadly. It used to go off around like 5. But since the pandemic, I've actually started sleeping in a little bit. And now it's somewhere between 6 and 7. I try to get up early because I like early because no one bothers me. And I'm not just talking about I'm not talking about being bothered in general, but it's my time. My wife likes to sleep in much later than I do, and yeah, so I get the house to myself, and I get the house to myself with my dogs, and yeah, it's before my work phone starts buzzing, right? So I do work a corporate job, and before my work phone starts buzzing, and I try not to look at my phone. But yeah, so I wake up, alarm goes off. I go through my morning routine as far as my beauty, right? I have to maintain my girlish figure.
What is your beauty routine? You can't just skip over that. This is all part of it.
This is part of it, right? So I'm very, very consistent, and I wrote in here that I want to talk about consistency. Well, I won't get into consistency just yet. But I'm very consistent. Like my morning routine is very regimented, and I don't know if that's like a military thing or just something I've designed over the years. But I wake up, right? My alarm goes off. I am a snoozer, so I will usually snooze. So if I know I want to be up by a certain time, I'll set alarms before that time to ensure that I'm up at the time that I want to be up at. And so
is it the same amount do you snooze the same number of snoozes every time? Okay.
No, and it's all dependent on just how I'm feeling too. Like if I'm feeling good, I won't snooze. But yeah, then there's days like I've snoozed for an hour before, right? Like what is that, like 10? What is that, like 10 times or something? But yeah, like so snooze is like 9 minutes. So yeah, I've snoozed multiple times, and there's no rhyme or reason. It's just I don't want to get the fuck out of bed, and yeah. So what's really interesting though too is I was never a morning person. I still don't consider myself a morning person. Yeah, just something like I hated waking up early as a kid, and even like going into the military. You're up super early in the military, and I would much rather stay up late than wake up early. But now as I got older, I love waking up early, but I'm still not like a morning person. I still want to be by myself and do my thing. So I get up, roll out of bed once I'm done snoozing, roll out of bed, go to the bathroom, and then brush my teeth. I comb my luscious locks, as you can tell.
For those who aren't watching the video,
I don't have hair, so I'm not combing anything. When I had a beard though, so I would get up, I'd wake up, go to the bathroom, brush my teeth. I have an electric toothbrush that's like is like a timer, so like I sit there and I like go through each section of my mouth with my timer. And when I had a longer beard, I would go through and I would comb and straighten it for the day.
Wait, how do you straighten it?
I had a beard straightener, so like almost like a hot comb for like
Wow.
girls. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I do care about my appearance quite a bit. It's just something that is more in my adulthood than anything. But yeah, I think about, and I'm totally getting off topic, totally sidetracked, but I think about, right, I don't have hair anymore. I could grow hair, but it wouldn't look like I want it to look, because I have the receding hairline and then losing the hair in the crown, all that fun stuff. But I think about, like, if I had hair, I have natural curly hair, and I always hated my hair growing up because it was naturally curly, and like you couldn't do anything. I couldn't have like the cool looking like movie star hair. And it's funny how like like we set our expectations based on, right, the movie stars and all that, and TV, and right, that's a whole different topic. But yeah, like I think now if I had hair, I would totally have like a flat iron, like straighten my hair so it wouldn't be curly, so I could totally curl it or totally like style it and do what I want with it. But that's a pipe dream. That's long gone. So
Photoshop can do it.
So yeah, so I was straightening my beard, right, and one is, right, to make it look nice, and two, my wife hated my beard, so I was also trying to be presentable, and also being naturally curly. Like my beard was just all over the place, especially after waking up in the morning. So after that, that's really it for my morning routine. We'll get into night routines because my night routine is a little more intense with like beauty and my beauty sleep. But yeah, that's really it. So I'll grab my phone, run downstairs, turn on the pot of coffee. In the wintertime, like right now, I turn on the fireplace. And I open the curtains to let natural sunlight in. I don't like artificial light. I'm not a big fan of artificial light. So I'll open the curtains, let the sunlight in, make my coffee, and then I have like a rocking chair right by the fireplace. And I'll sit there with my dogs. So we have 3 dogs, and one of my dogs, I'm so happy. One of my dogs, so we have 2 dogs that are old. 14 and 13, and then our newest dog, our big dog Stella, is a pup, and she's a little over like 14 months old now. But my dog, right, quote, my dog, Harley, she's a Maltese Yorkie mix, and she's a little shit. She's such a little shit. She's like a cat, right? Like she wants to be pet when she wants to be pet, and no other time. It's like if you go and you like pet her and she doesn't want to be pet, she'll walk away. But if she wants to be pet, she'll come over and she'll like nudge you. She'll bark at you. to tell you to like hang out with her. So she's old, and she had a knee surgery like 2 years ago, and from that point she's sort of like been declining in just like old, like, I don't want to say health, because like nothing specifically was wrong. She was just like becoming more lethargic, and she can't jump up on things anymore, and it was sad. So I was just like, oh man, this sucks, my dog's dying. And we took them in for their annual visit, and the doctor was like, oh, your dog has really severe hypothyroidism, so a slow thyroid. Like they measured the numbers, and they couldn't even get a measurement. That's how low it was. And I was like, oh wow, that's interesting. And they're like, yeah, have you noticed like your dog's energy levels? I was like, yeah, for like the last year and a half her energy sucks, and you know, she's not the same dog. And they're like, oh well, we'll put her on this meds. So 4 weeks later, I just took her yesterday for her checkup. 4 weeks later, she is back to my like puppy dog. Like, yeah, it is so cool. Like, I feel like I feel like I got my dog back, which is so cute. But again, she's a pain in the ass. Like, she really is. So our big dog, Stella, she's a Doberman, and she's like 70 pounds, and she gets up in her face. My Maltese Yorkie is like 13 pounds. She gets up in her face and starts barking at her. And yeah, she's like totally back to puppy mode, which is so cool. I'm so grateful for Western medicine in that sense, that I get my dog back. No crying this episode, Alan. But yeah, like, so I bring that up because part of my morning routine is snuggling with my dogs. And she'll come and she'll sit on my lap, and she like snuggles her way in. And yeah, and so from there, I'll do a few things. So I like to read. I try to read books, but oftentimes I also want to read on my phone. And like, I'll read, like, not news. I stay away from news. News is terrible. If you're listening to news and you think life is awful, stop listening to the news, and I bet you your life gets better. That's my advice to everyone. The news is fucking bullshit. The news is like literally to report all of the bad things going on in the world. So stop watching the fucking news, right? Because the news is trying to convince you one way or another of their opinion, even when they're like unbiased and bullshit, right? Yeah. Right? It's all bullshit. So no news for me. I used to watch the news religiously, and I realized that they were trying to brainwash us. And I'm not being all conspiracy theory, so if you're listening, you think I'm a conspiracy theory, well, you know where to go. So I'll just read, like, I'll read about jiu-jitsu, and I'll read about yoga, and, you know, skiing seasons and snowboarding, and just like what's going on in the economy. You know, I'll read about stock market, and the topics vary, and it's just what I'm thinking about in that moment. You know, I have a lot of investments, so like I'm, you know, on my E-Trade account and looking at that type of stuff. I'm reading a great graphic novel right now, graphic novel or a comic book, but it's huge. From a teacher student. She teaches like middle school, I think 8th grade. And she told me about this graphic novel. It's called Mouse. And
I read that.
Oh, have you?
Or I don't know if I was a kid or like junior high or high school, but I had a few of their graphic novels.
Mm-hmm. I've never heard of this one, and I was like, oh, like it's really I don't want to say triggering because it's not triggering, but it's really like abrupt in your face, the cover, because there's a swastika right on the cover of it with a mouse, and it's called Mouse, M-A-U-S, and it's this book. So the Germans saw Nazi Germany, not Germans now, maybe they do, maybe they don't, but Nazi Germany saw Jews as mice. And in this book, the artist, his father was a Holocaust survivor, and they go through, they're going through his story, but it's all written as the Jews are all mice, and hence mouse, and the Germans are all cats. And so it's been a great graphic novel so far. But then I bounce between books. I have audiobooks. I have digital books. And I'm like so ADD with my books. Like I'll read a chapter and then go to another book. And there's just so much going on. So I read. I try to stay away from like text messages and emails because in my mind, text messages and emails are other people's agendas. Mm-hmm. And I'll get to that, but like for me, it's me. And then after consumption, so some people question, I've had people question, why do I consume first? And I feel like I consume first so I can breathe later because whatever I'm consuming, sometimes I need to breathe. And I'd rather not do it the opposite way. So I know a lot of people start off with like their morning routines with breath and then go into like consumption. But yeah, I like to consume. And then if like I'm triggered or angry or upset or even happy, like then I go into my breath because then it's just time to, wash that away. So I go into my meditation, and meditation for me, it varies. It could be, there's mornings I'll do 5 minutes of meditation, and then there's mornings like I'll do an hour, and then there's mornings like I'll be like, all right, I'm gonna do 20 minutes, and it's like 45 minutes later, like I just fall so deep into like my meditation that I'm just with myself, and that's cool, and I've gotten so used to that. The one thing I want to talk about with my meditation though is it's not this enlightened floating in lotus above my mat, right? I had a student ask me once, she came up to me and she was like, Alan, how do you meditate? How do you meditate? Or what does your meditation routine look like? And I think she was shocked and taken back initially with it because I literally sit on my couch. I sit my butt on my couch. I don't sit cross-legged. I don't do any like mudras with my hands or anything. I sit on my couch. And if you're like thinking, oh, I can't meditate because I need to be sitting on a mat, and no, that's not what meditation is. And what's really interesting is from that conversation, it opened up meditation to that student. And multiple times she's told me like, she's like, oh, because you told me that, like I've been able to actually start meditating and allow meditation practice in my life. And I learned that in yoga teacher training, when you're like sitting on your mat in like a cross-legged position for 30 minutes. And you're like, fuck, my back is bothering me, my hips, my knees, like just everything starts aching. Right? Like you should be comfortable. Like,
can I
jump on it?
I don't know. In your yoga class on Tuesday, weren't you talking about embracing the discomfort?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. There for sure. There's, Bree brings up a good point. Discomfort I think is a key part of life. And if discomfort is part of your meditation, then I think absolutely it should be. I think it should be every part of your life. Like I think it's part of yoga on the mat, yoga off the mat. Specifically what I was talking about in yoga class. Yeah, I love it, Bree. Thanks for calling me out on that. So I was listening to something, I'm not going to get into that, where the source, but I was listening to a PhD in psychology talk about empathy and things like that. And what was said was that empathy is not supposed to ease discomfort. And for me, that like struck a nerve to this day. I heard this Tuesday, and I'm still, right, it's Thursday now, I'm still, like, that quote is fresh in my mind, and I'm still thinking about it. And that's a whole nother topic, but yeah, I love it. Empathy is not supposed to ease discomfort. And to Bree's point, right, like sometimes we have to embrace the discomfort, because sometimes that's all we have, right? Like, it's uncomfortable, but we have to be okay in that moment. As for my meditation, I think that, right, like if you don't have a meditation practice and you're not used to being uncomfortable, right, and just meditating is uncomfortable, find what works for you, right, and try to ease discomfort in meditation, right, in your seated meditation. that's my thought, is just to ease your discomfort as much as you can to get started. But yeah, I think Bree is onto something with, you should probably have some level of discomfort in your meditation. I'll have to look into that in my practice.
Well, I think what you're saying is
Mm-hmm.
like, if there's a barrier for you and the barrier is discomfort, then eliminate the activation and eliminate the barriers that are stopping you from doing or trying something.
Right.
Like,
Absolutely.
make it as easy as possible to start doing it.
Yep.
And then from there, maybe you explore. And I think with meditation, it's also what is your intention with sitting?
Mm-hmm.
And for that, every person has a different reason, or at different days or times in our life, it looks different.
Yep.
And there's also so many different styles of meditation. So
Absolutely.
that in itself changes the approach to it. But I agree.
Sure.
I even tell people, like, if you can't meditate, or if you're struggling to start meditation, maybe cooking is meditation for you,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe going for a run. Like, start there, because just find the thing where you're fully engaged in yourself and what you're doing and in the present moment. I mean, that's all meditation is moving
Mm-hmm.
towards, is like presence.
Yep. So a few things on that. So meditation for me, and I think for everyone, is two things. One, it's monotasked, right? Like we are not multitaskers, right? Everyone thinks like, oh, I'm the best multitasker. No, you're not. You're terrible at it. You're a liar. You're terrible at it. We're all terrible multitaskers. You can only focus on one thing. I'm saying it. It's out there.
Or you're doing a lot of things really crappy. Like,
right.
you're doing everything at 30%.
100%.
No, 30%.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I agree. I think that like monotasking, for me, shooting my bow is meditation. Right. Like, working out, right. There's moving meditation, there's still meditation, there's so much. And then for my still meditation, the thing that I wanted to make sure to get across there is that a lot of people think that they can't meditate because, I can't clear my mind. No one can. If you have figured out how to clear your mind, you need to be guiding us, because you have a secret that everyone else doesn't have. Like, to clear your mind is impossible, right? What meditation should be is, right? Like, so when I hear people, oh, clear your mind. How do I do that? Right. So meditation should be a focus on typically breath. Right. Yeah.
I'm going to disagree.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll let you finish.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're allowed to disagree, right?
That's
So
the point.
for me, what I believe is that, right, your meditation should be a focus on one thing, right? In a still meditation, breath, right? Or, right, some people use words like that mean nothing, so, and hum, or there's various options out there. But it is, right, inhale, exhale, and whatever you're using to guide that is fine. And with that, you're focusing on your breath, and eventually your mind's going to wander, right? Your mind's going to go to your task list, or, oh my gosh, it's Monday and I don't want to work, or, oh yeah, I can't wait for the weekend, right? You're going to go through all your baggage, your emotions, whatever it is that you have with you. And I do this a lot in my yoga class, like be with whatever it is that you have with you. And the better, quote, better you get at meditating, the better that it's not that you're clearing your mind, it's the better you get at realizing you have stopped focusing on your monotask, i.e. your breath in this case. And, oh, hey, I shouldn't be thinking about my task list. I need to get back to my breath. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Oh, squirrel. Oh, stop thinking about the squirrel. Inhale, exhale, right? Like, so and for me, like, I've been meditating for 4 years, and there's still good days and not so good days. And that's cool, right? I don't judge like, oh yeah, some days my mind wanders a lot easier, a lot quicker, and I don't recognize it. I'm not able to grab it and come back to my breath. So yeah, let's hear your point, your
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's where it comes back to. There's different styles of meditation. And so I would consider that style of coming back to your breath as a style of focus, right? So we're pulling away from focus, drawing it back to focus.
Yep.
There's also going to be seated meditations that are about observing. And so allowing the mind to wander to wherever it is and being the witness, the observer of it versus like, I have to bring it back or I have to bring it back to a mantra.
Yep.
The style that I do, Yoga Nidra, is a passive meditation. It's always guided because if you're guiding yourself, you're active. And depending on the style of Yoga Nidra, there are mindfulness-based ones that are more concentration focused. Mm-hmm. There's also very expansive ones. And so the practice that is regular and like the type of meditation that I do regularly is moving towards equanimity and expansiveness. And so what I mean by equanimity is being that observer in the fluctuations of whatever arises. And so not being controlled. So it's letting go of control. So as opposed to I need to come back to my breath, inhale, exhale, it's allowing it wherever it goes and moving into deep states of relaxation. So with Yoga Nidra, you're moving into, we have different brainwave states. And in sleep, the second you close your eyes, you go into a slower brainwave state, into a more relaxed state. In sleep, your deepest sleep is significantly slower brainwaves than REM, which is going to be, and they overlap into, like delta would be your slowest brainwaves. Upper delta is a deep sleep. And then you go like theta will be the faster brainwaves. And we're moving kind of more into consciousness. Deep sleep, you're in your unconscious. You're in this area of your brain that you actually never like really have access to. And why it's so regenerative is because the noise, like if you think about brainwaves as thoughts per minute, if there's less thoughts per minute, you have access to more of that silence, that stillness. And so that's what this practice is going into, is slowing down, relaxing you so much, using the biological process of sleep to slow your brainwaves down so much so that you actually start to see that stillness, that quiet. So it's not necessarily like I'm actively clearing my mind. By moving to more relaxed states, I actually naturally begin to silence the noise. And then I move into, there's times I'm practicing and I feel like my mind is very active. The difference is the equanimity aspect. Like my mind is no longer controlling me. I am sitting back and watching everything as it occurs. So if I were to use my breath, I'm now adding an element of that pulls me out of that deeper state because I'm doing. And that this practice is about non-doing. It's moving into a place where you're like try to fix things by doing more, and really it's about sitting back, right? And absolutely. Allowing. And so I think that's why I say like you find the meditations that work for you, but also know what you're calling work for you. Right? So what do you want from your meditation practice? I find a seated meditation that's not guided is really an excellent practice for me to take into my everyday waking experiences where I feel myself getting pulled in a direction and being able to control my mind to bring it back, right? So like that practice of being on your breath, mind wanders, you come back. I can use that in like everyday life. My Yoga Nidra practice puts me into a more just my general state every day has shifted because of that practice. And so I actually am triggered less because of this practice of sitting back and being the observer, living in equanimity because of sitting back through the fluctuations,
Right.
and I can access this more expansive state just every day. It's the way I live, versus for me, a seated meditation is like I'm controlling things. So there's
100%.
still a level of doing there. So I think it's, again, like, explore it, find what works for you. But no, like, if I want to be able to control my mind, maybe a seated breath meditation is the way to go.
Yep, for sure. And and the breath is the one thing that you can control in the moment, right? Like, that's why you come back to it, right? It's that, it's the controllable, right?
But it's also goes like that. It also expresses our inner wisdom.
Yep.
So whether you think about it or not, you continue to breathe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think
absolutely.
that's like such the beautiful thing. It's like the only thing that we can control, but also don't need to control.
The only voluntary and involuntary action that our body does alone. Yep.
But
What with Yoga Nidra, they say, and I know I've taken a few Yoga Nidra classes, but so I know nothing about it. But they talk about, I've heard them talk about like the 45 minutes of Yoga Nidra is like equivalent to
3 hours of sleep.
3 hours of sleep.
Yeah. So if you have, I always encourage people to try Yoga Nidra because of what I hear, the feedback I hear about people struggling with meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And so we expect, for what you said, to just sit and all of a sudden we like clear silence our mind, like silence the thoughts, but it's our
Can you do
human-
that? Can you silence your mind?
Can I silence my mind?
Yeah. Like,
I can access a lot of stillness.
okay. But like you
And I
can't,
have
but
I have moments of I'm not doing it.
Right.
It's the natural, like in
Right.
Yoga Nidra, I have natural, these like blank states
Right.
that do occur.
but if someone was like, clear your mind, Brie,
Yeah.
like does that work? Like, do you think that's valid? Like, clear your mind, Brie. Oh yeah, no, there it goes, clear.
Yeah. No, I
Okay,
mean, that's
right.
what we're made to do. But
Right.
you can go into, your mind is cleared when you're in your unconscious state
100%,
of deep sleep.
right.
And so Yoga Nidra, you can go to unconscious states with awareness. And that's the difference, is you go into these massively, and the more that you go there, the easier it is to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And so the ability, I think, that practice will actually allow you to get to the point where I can just drop into that silent state.
Yep.
And I don't remember what your question was
45
about,
minutes
like,
of sleep is equal to 3 hours. 45 minutes of Nidra is 3 hours of sleep.
It can be, doesn't necessarily mean it will be, but it is really great for people who, a few things. If you're insomniac, it's a great way to make up for sleep that you're not getting. If you have any type of like mental health conditions that don't allow you to go into deep sleep, that kind of pull you in a lighter stage, it's a great option. What happens to a lot of people is they actually just go cycle through REM and light sleep and never enter into a deep sleep state.
Mm-hmm.
And the deep sleep is our most regenerative state that we could be in. It would be the equivalent of a coma, and that's why we put people into comas in order to
Heal.
Heal themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So that we're creating an environment of healing when we shut everything down in that way. But the other thing I would recommend is if you have troubles falling asleep, you can use it to fall asleep. Or I noticed that just by practicing it regularly, I'm also almost training myself how to slow down and quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And so even not doing it, even if you do it in the morning or in the afternoon, by doing it consistently, I will guarantee that you will get better sleep in general, because it's the same thing like we're talking about with the seat. Come back to the breath. You're training your mind how to come back from distractions. You're now, through Yoga Nidra, training your mind how to slow down. And why most people can't fall asleep is because they can't slow their minds down.
Yep.
So if you think that it's just going to magically start to happen, no, you're going to continue to exhaust. You basically will fall asleep when your mind is so exhausted it can't do anything anymore. But if you practice, right, if you train your mind to slow down and quiet, it will become much easier to do that when you want it to at night.
Yeah, absolutely.
Routine. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about, right?
Routine.
Is like this routine, these consistencies. it starts to, it makes things easier.
It does. It really does. And I had a thought that strays a little off topic, but I do want to hit on it, right? When we're talking about sleep, I think that drugs come into play too, right? Because you mentioned like cycling between light sleep and REM and just back and forth. And that's actually not great for the body because you never get into that healing state for your body, right? You never get to that recovery point. And right, I said earlier that I love Western medicine, but I also hate Western medicine, right? Western medicine is a double-edged sword. And I'm talking about both illegal and legal drugs. You know, caffeine's a drug, sugar's a drug. Those things impact your sleep rhythms, right? Like, you know, people who think they have trouble sleeping, so they take Xanax, right, to help them sleep. While, yeah, you might go unconscious, right? Like you might be in a sleep state, right? It is likely, right? There's all sorts of scientific studies out there that have shown, right, the impact to REM sleep even. Like you don't even get to REM sleep, or you never get into that deep state sleep. You know, painkillers, all sorts of just drugs on the body has an impact to your sleep, which impacts everything. So it's tools like these. You know, this is the whole hippie in us, right? It's tools like these that, it's so funny that like we care about ourselves, that we want to actually get some sleep, that they're science-based, or like to prove that, hey, sleep is good. I have friends that are laughing right now that are listening that are going to say, Alan, you don't sleep, because I'll get to my sleep patterns later. But yeah, I sleep like 5 hours a night. But like sleep is important, and like we impact that with the things that we consume, even blue light, right? Like I know, Bree, you're on a mission to get rid of blue light before bed, and right, like it's right. There's all these things that we're consuming, whether it be drugs or blue light or whatever it is that impacts that. And well, right, like maybe consume nidra, right? And maybe you need more consumption of that. Maybe that's going to impact your sleep for the better. So I just feel like I had to put a plug in there for
these
that.
drugs they're basically inhibiting or, what's the opposite of inhibiting?
Prohibiting?
Or releasing,
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Inhibiting or releasing chemicals in your body, in your brain, hormones that already exist. Okay, so that's what they're doing. It's regulating things that aren't happening, being released in your body or released too much. These drugs are that's how they work. And so that's where meditation practices or yoga nidra, especially, I'm always like, again, I'll probably talk about yoga nidra more because I shifted away from just a regular seated meditation. I pretty much strictly am a yoga nidra-er. And that's what it works. I mean, it's releasing melatonin, serotonin, it's decreasing cortisol. Like all of those things are going to impact your sleep. And so if you're taking a drug and that's what you need to realize that you can get there, have a plan to be weaning off the drug and using your own resources. Like how powerful it is to not be dependent on, to be able to let your body do what it's meant to do on its own.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
that's finding all these things that like what you consume and how it affects your body. I'm gonna get it, like we're not doing ads, but I got a Whoop strap in November. And it's been really cool to watch because it tells you your sleep cycles. And it's been really, I'm a really good sleeper.
You get a gold star sticker for that.
Look at me. But I attribute it, you know, I get cycles of deep sleep throughout the entire night. And so one of my good friends talks about, she's the one who told me about the Whoop strap, and she gets all of her deep sleep at the beginning of her sleep. So if she does something in the evening that messes with that, so she's like, I can't eat close to bedtime. She says she can have like a beer, but she needs to do it earlier because if she has it later, it messes with her deep sleep. Like anything close to bed will mess with her deep sleep, and then she doesn't get deep sleep for the whole night.
Oh, that's rough.
And so everyone has different cycles of that deep sleep.
Yep.
But I thought about it more and more, and I'm like, I think that I cycle through multiple deep sleeps because of this practice that I do that is leading me into those states.
Mm-hmm.
And because I do get a big chunk at the beginning, and then I get these little chunks throughout the rest of the evening.
Yep.
But if you think about it, some people don't ever get that, or some people just get it at the beginning. I think that's probably the
Yep.
natural time, the beginning of when they go to sleep. If you do anything that messes with that, you now just spent a whole night sleeping
Yep.
without going into those regenerative states.
Absolutely.
But
and
the whoop is when I'm practicing regularly, like every single day, my yoga nidra,
Mm-hmm.
my recovery is significantly higher and consistently higher.
That's great.
And so they measure recovery based on like heart rate variability, which is your parasympathetic, sympathetic, like communication,
Mm-hmm.
and your resting heart rate and the amount of sleep you get.
Yep.
But
I'm glad you bring up the whoop strap because I've been on the fence, right? Like Joe Rogan talks about it all the time.
okay.
But I'm like, oh yeah, do I need it? Right? Like again, I'm watching my consumption of things and I'm like, oh, like, but yeah, like again, like my sleep patterns, like the hours of sleep that I get are not a lot. But I do value the sleep that I get. So like I've been looking into it. So it's good to hear you talk good about it. And also we're not discounting anyone who's taking drugs for things that you need them for, right? Like, but also, right? Like, do you have the right tools, right? And do the tools pair together, right? And Bree said like weaning off drugs. Well, okay, maybe that means just going to lower doses of your drugs with using multiple tools, right? There's no one secret to anything. And I think that's the point we're trying to get at with this episode and talking about like routine and consistency is that there's no secret. There's not one thing, right? And maybe for Bree, like that yoga nidra is a huge part of her routine. And for me, like my routine is made up of multiple things. Right. Like, so there's not just one key that's going to open the lock in my mind. So I think that if you're on drugs for whatever it is that you need to be on drugs for, then you look at your other tools, look at your other options, and see how you can incorporate those. And again, consistency is the key in that, right? You can't say, "Oh, I tried meditating." Oh, how long did you meditate? Oh, I tried it for like 3 days. Good job. You didn't try meditating, right? Like, consistency is the name of this game. And I think about like being overweight, right? Like, so if you're overweight, how long did it take for you to get to that state? Maybe like it started as a child and, and I'm not, again, getting into eating disorders and all that, but like, just being overweight, right? Being, unhealthy, eating unhealthy foods, like how long did it take to get to that state? Right. And for most, it's going to be years, right? Like it's years of consistency, right? Consistency is again, also a double-edged sword, right? Because if you're consistently doing the wrong things, then you're going to get what you give. I saw a quote this morning that I was reading that it was talking about what you fill your cup with when you get shaken is what is going to spill all over you. Right. And I love that. Right. Because like if you're filling your cup with trash, like I'm just saying trash, right, in general, and you get shaken, and then you're just going to be wearing trash. But if you fill your cup with all of the goodness of life that is what you want, when you get shaken, you get covered in that. And that's where like that embracing the discomfort comes from. Like, oh, I'm cool with this because I'm wearing what I'm putting back into that cup. So consistency is the key to this. If you have bad, consistent habits, then the end result is always going to be bad results. So to change something in your life, you have to be consistent in the things that you're wanting to implement. And that goes back to making things accessible, right? If things are hard, if things are really hard to do, for you, they're going to be much easier to make excuses, and you're not going to be able to build that routine off of. And you're just going to be like, oh yeah, no, it's too hard. I'm just going to fall back into my old ways. And you're going to do what you're used to doing.
Mm-hmm. I think there's also, just expanding on a few things that you said, is like, you wouldn't just say, sign up for, if you've never ran before, you're not going to sign up for a marathon next week and think, oh, I'm going to be able to run 26.2 miles. But when it comes to meditation, we expect to be running the marathon the first time we sit down.
Right.
Meditation is also about how you relate to it. So it's not, there's no good or bad meditation. There's no, I did good today, because why? It's how are you relating to whatever's arising, but also knowing that anything you do, you have to practice.
100%.
It's your job. Did someone become the CEO? Maybe if you started the company, you just like got gifted into that, but usually those people then like get removed. But people who climb the corporate ladder, they didn't just get there because they didn't do anything before that. It took years and years and years and years and years to get there. And same thing with, you're struggling with sleep. And again, like, if you need the drugs, do that. But also know that you have to train yourself and that it's going to take time. So it's not like, if that means this balancing out of, let's scale back here, let me add this other thing. But if we think I'm just going to scale back here, this sleep aid, but not practice falling asleep, why would you just all of a sudden magically be the person who can easily fall asleep every night?
Right.
Like, I'm not going to run a marathon next. I run regularly, and I wouldn't run a marathon next week because I know I'd get injured. We have these expectations of instant results in everything. But in the kind of normal things that are part of our lives, we don't expect that. So why do we all of a sudden have this double standard and expect it with our meditation or expect it with our weight loss? That it's just, okay, I've changed these things, and now in 3 months, like, I should have lost all this weight.
Right.
And it's like you said, years of having one habit is going to take years to come back from that habit.
Right.
And the other crazy thing is habits are still a conscious, they are a little more automatic, but we can even go to the point where a habit becomes an unconscious part of us. So it's now something that we're doing that isn't even in our awareness. Like, we go from choice to habit to an unconscious neural pathway that is actually just like guiding us versus us choosing it. And that, I think, is really, when you get to that point, that's where these actual practices become super important, because we're looking to shift things at a level that we aren't even aware they're happening.
Yep. I'm gonna landmark us real quick. So Bree and I have both done this program where you go and you get I don't even know how to describe it. Like you go and realize that there's no meaning of life. And if you don't get that yet, you're not going to get it until you get it. But they do this diagram in the program, and it's a circle, and it makes this little pie chart, and they make, let's just say a 90 degree right from top to the right side of the circle. And then they cut that in half, and then they say, here's what this little slice of pie is what you know. Then this other little slice of pie is what you don't know. You don't know it.
Yeah.
Right? And then the rest of the circle is everything that you don't know you don't know.
Yeah.
And it's powerful when you realize how much of life you realize you don't know that you don't know it. Like, that's why there's so many times, like, in life you say, like, oh, the older I get, I realize I don't know a whole lot.
Yeah.
And you made so many great points. What was I going to say? You were talking about, consistency taking time. So, overnight success happens in 10 years. And we're so based on this instant gratification. I'm not saying social media is the thing that has made this, because we've always been this way, right? Like, I think as humans, we always just want to be instantly gratified, right? We want this, we have this want, we want it, we get it. And then when we don't get it, I'm just going to throw my hands up, and that's where discipline comes in. But the person who's made it to CEO, all we see is that they're the CEO. We don't see their struggles. The person that's made it, right? Like, overnight success takes 10 years. So that means if you start a new habit today, that's 10 years from that new habit, just that one new habit today that's going to impact, right? And if you start another new habit tomorrow, that's another 10 years, right? Like, so it's just this ever, right? Like, ever long game that we're playing of just trying to become better and get to this point where we want, and and just rolling with the punches and the changes the changes of life, and hopefully making these little adjustments and seeing that. Like, I think about where I've been and where I was. This is a total different episode that we've talked about doing as our past selves, but right, like, I've only been a yoga teacher for 4 or 5 years now, and before that, I was smoking a pack and a half a day and not eating right. And right when I look at how it was only 5 years, that's it. I'm 38. Right? Like, 5 years is a very small chunk of my life that, and I'm expecting to see these changes. And I've only been hunting for 3 years, mm-hmm. right? Like, and I'm expecting to get an elk on the first day, mm-hmm. And you learn very quickly with elk hunting that doesn't happen. But like, it's the same thing. You want to lose weight, right? Like, you're not gonna just shed pounds. Like, you can't just cut it off. Like, you can. I don't recommend that. Right. Like, that's the thing, is we want instant gratification. I'm going to go and cut off my fat. Like, like, you got to work for it. Like, work for what you want. Right. I've gone into my thoughts on my mantra of work for what you want. And then this also goes into the discomfort that Bree brought up earlier. Is it's uncomfortable, right? Like, being true and empathetic with yourself, right? Empathy doesn't ease discomfort. It's just knowing this is a struggle. This is uncomfortable, and we're still going to move forward, and we're still going to do it. And I'm not going to let myself go back into my old ways. You were going to say.
And then I asked you get there, and then what? Right. Because that's what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So that's part of the consistency. Part of the habit is like being the person you want to be, right? Mm-hmm. And so, okay, we're talking about weight, but you're saying like, okay, yeah, you can cut off all the fat, and then what? Mm-hmm. So we have to find the joy, the peace in the process, mm-hmm. in the discomfort, in all that's quote unquote going our way and all that's not going our way. Mm-hmm. Because anytime it's about getting there, you don't even actually enjoy it then, mm-hmm. when you're there, because you're on to the next thing that you need. And so if you can start to think about like, I'm establishing these habits, or I'm having this discipline because this is how I want to live my life. Yeah. It's going to be just so much more powerful in your own experience of that life.
Absolutely. I talk about this in my yoga class often, that quit trying to get to the pose. Like, it's not about the pose, mm-hmm. but like, the only place that we're arriving to, there's only one place that every single one of us is arriving to, and that's death. Yeah. That's it. We're all going to die. And if that's news to you, I'm sorry, but it's the truth. And that should motivate you. It's not meant to not motivate you, right? Mm-hmm. It's supposed to motivate you. Like, your death is supposed to be the motivator. Like, I'm going to get out there and crush my life because I'm going to die, right? And no matter what, the discomfort, the pain, the agony, I'm going to do this thing because I'm going to enjoy the journey. Because like Bree said, like, yeah, you do the pose, then what? On to the next pose. Yay. Right? Like, oh, I got this job. Like, it's never ending. This, like, I'm like, if you're watching video, like, you see me like grasping, like you're just grasping at these straws or this nothingness. of, oh, I'll be happy when I get this job. No, you're not. If you're not happy right now, you're not going to be happy when you get the job. Yeah. Right. And if you're not happy when you get the job, you're not going to be happy when you get the next promotion, or you're not going to be happy when you have, when you get married. You're not going to be happy when you have the kids. You have to be happy in this moment. And being happy is understanding that life is suffering, right? Like we suffer through life, and the better you get at suffering, the happier you can be, and to realize like, oh yeah, like life's good. Like but
it's so much easier to blame external factors
100%
and say this is the reason I'm unhappy, because it's a lot harder to put the magnifying glass on yourself and do the work, do that internal work. That it's just a lot easier to blame everything else around you for your discontent than it is to say, oh, maybe this is me.
We all get the same sun, soil, rain, right? Like we all get the same thing. It's what we do with it. So you can blame the sun, you can blame the rain, you can blame the storms, but it's, people have their storms and they get through it. And it's about looking inward. Man, we've gotten way off topic. I was talking about my morning routines. Gosh, that's crazy.
That's the point.
Yeah, that is the point, right?
Well, we're in the journey.
So if you have nothing to add, I'll go back to my morning routine.
All right.
So I meditate. I go through my meditation, and oftentimes, like, I have my dogs with me too. And my dogs are like part of me in my life, and like, I love my dogs, and so like them being on my mat, them being in my meditation practice, that's cool. Like they're an extension of me, an extension of that. So after meditation, that's usually when I like start my day. And then at that point it becomes, I try to stick to an agenda for me, but it also becomes agendas about other people. And, that's where emails come in. Like when you get a request of an email where someone requesting you to do something, whether it be your job or a family member or something, that is no longer your agenda. Right. That is, someone is pulling you away for their agenda, for something they want you to do, for whatever reason, right? Maybe it's part of your job and part of your responsibilities and your duty, but it is no longer your agenda. And if you're serving other people, immediately at the beginning of your day, right? When are you going to find time for yourself? And, that's why I love the mornings. That's why I love being up early, because I don't have people trying to grab me and take away chunks of me for their agenda. And I move throughout my day, and I try to stay, serving my agendas, but, in my job, my corporate job, I serve others, and, even teaching yoga, I'm serving others. I truly believe that if we help other people get what they want in life, like you can have anything that you want. But also selfishness leads to selflessness, right? Like you have to have a full cup before you can give to others. If your cup is empty, if your bowl is empty, whatever analogy you want to use, you have nothing to give, right? If you want to give love, you have to be love. You have to love yourself. If you want to give energy, you have to have energy, and whatever that takes for you to have that, you need to make sure that your cup is full in order, right? Your cup runneth over, right? And then you can give the extra, right? And it's important to dump out what's in your cup, because then you can put more in, right? So you have to fill that cup, get rid of it, and then put more in. And for me, that's how I see my life, as serving others.
Can I give a really quick analogy?
Yeah, for sure. Go for it.
It's one of my favorites around that topic is our breath.
Mm-hmm.
We don't exhale first, we inhale first. We receive first in order to give. And that's how we survive. And so that's come up. I do a Monday meditation circle, and we have conversation after meditation, and that's come up multiple times. There's just this idea of people struggle with receiving, but you have nothing in your well to give if you're not receiving or taking. So I just love that kind of idea of.
Yeah.
We breathe in to then breathe out.
Yeah. And how many times are people like, oh, you're so selfish? Maybe there's a level of like that greed, that selfishness, right? But maybe try it on that maybe they need to fill their cup. Maybe their cup's empty. And maybe that's the time you need to take your cup and pour some and share some, right? And give people the opportunity to breathe and give people the opportunity for themselves, right? And recognize that, yeah, they, their cup is dry, right? They have so much going on and they don't have the tools. Me and my wife's in school to be a psychologist, and we talk about the tools often, right? And what the tools are, they're different, right? It's Batman's belt, right? If you're not a comic book dork or Batman dork, right? Like me, right? But like Batman has a belt, right? Police officers have a belt. A lot of like our superheroes have belts, and on the belt isn't just one thing. Although the news will make you believe different right now on a cop's belt, but on our belt are multiple things. There's many things. On Batman's belt, he has a grappling hook. And now if you need to go as fast as you can in one direction and you shoot your grappling hook, that's going to be wasted energy. That's going to be misuse of a tool. But if you know what the grappling hook is for and you know when to use the grappling hook, right? Like that grappling hook is really critical, right? If you know when to use your gun, if you know when to use your handcuffs, you know when to use your radio, right? All of these are tools, and we have to have tools in life. And for me, meditation and reading and those are my tools. My dogs are my tools in life that help me show up every day for myself and then for everyone that I can give to. And so as I go about my day, like I think that, one of the things that, and this is one of my unhealthy habits, and I'll just talk about this briefly, and this goes more into like our relationship with ourselves, is I don't feel that I'm deserving of, in a lot of ways, of the life that I have. And call it imposter syndrome, call it whatever it is that you want. That's just my thought, and that's my battle to go with. Like, again, right? Like, I don't need anyone giving me empathy and trying to ease my discomfort in that, right? Like, I'm okay in my discomfort in that I know that I'm deserving, right? Or I should feel deserving. And so I don't need you coming at me like, hey, no, Alan, you're amazing. Like, that's not one, just, yeah, oh, that's a struggle. Cool. And I'm going to work through it. But for me, my goal is to recognize, right? That's part of my routines, is to recognize, no, you are worthy. And I'm going to give myself grace, and I'm going to continue to serve others. And that's my way of repaying the life that I've been afforded. And so I move about my day, and then I go through into my night routine, which I'm not going to get into because we need to talk about your morning routine.
I don't know. Should we just do the whole day?
Should we do the whole day?
Just go for it. Just finish it off.
All right, finish it off. So I go
finish
through.
it off.
So I go through my day. Most of the time, I like working out at night. So I'm not a big person to work out in the morning. I will if I ultimately have to. But I'd rather work out at night, and that can be a few things for me. So I exercise every day. Don't miss a day, 7 days a week. I exercise. What that looks like is different. And I also need to learn to give myself grace for sometimes what that looks like, because sometimes what that looks like isn't what I want it to be. And it's just what I have to accept. But for me, my workouts consist of jiu-jitsu. I do jiu-jitsu 3-4 days a week. I do weightlifting, right? So I have my own home gym. If you don't have a home gym, and this pandemic hasn't taught you they should have a home gym or something in your house at least to get you moving and working out, bands, some dumbbells, something, go on Amazon, right? It might be back ordered right now because everyone's realizing like the importance of having that. But the home gym is the best investment I've ever made because it's always there. It's always there. I can't use the excuse the gym's closed. I can't use the excuse, oh, it's too late. Wow, I'm tired. Wow, I'm tired. Get your fucking ass downstairs and go move some weights. I don't care if you're tired. I don't care what your day was like. It doesn't matter. Guess what? The 45-pound plate is still 45 pounds. Go move it. right? And that's my thought is like, it doesn't matter what happened in my day, right? I am going to do something. And having my gym has been a really critical aspect in my journey through health and fitness. So invest in yourself, right? Be selfish. It's okay, right? Like, you don't need my permission, but it's okay to be selfish. And taking care of ourselves is so important. And there's often times when we're going to record our podcast where we can't find times because we're being selfish, and I love it. Like, if I'm like, Bree, can you record this time in this day? Nope, I have running club. I never want to interrupt her running club. Like I love that. I love that she has a dedicated running club, right? Like, that's fantastic because it shows she cares about herself, and we need to care about ourselves first. So I go through my day, and whether that be work and hanging out with friends and doing dinners and just knowing who you are. Like, I'm an extrovert. I get power. I get energy from other people. You know, yesterday I posted on Instagram about I had 8 hours of Zoom calls. Zoom fatigue is real. It is real. It is exhausting. I was so over looking at a camera, being on a computer. And immediately after work, I shut everything down. I moved away from my devices, and I got outside. It was blizzarding out, literally, like, no joke blizzard, like snow blowing sideways. And I got out, and I went out and hung out with some friends, and I know what I need in those moments, and it's important to know that, right? Like, if you're an extrovert and you get energy from being around people, go do that if that's what you need. And if it's you get energy from introverting, like my wife, and sitting on the couch and watching your Real Housewives of Dallas, right? Like, go do that too, right? Just know what you need and take that in. So I move to my workouts, whether that be jiu-jitsu or yoga or weightlifting. My yoga practice is very different than like going to a class. I think as you become a yoga teacher, right, that shifts a little. I think a lot of yoga teachers can speak to that, that our yoga practices don't look like what a class looks like. So it could just be moving on our mat. It could be moving in our bathroom. Like, sometimes I'm just moving in a shower, like stretching. And so it just really depends, right? Like, you find yoga in the funniest places, and I love that. Right, that's what I love about being a yoga teacher, is just because you're like you move in a way to like pick something up, and you're like, oh, that feels good, and then you end up in a pose, and you're like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I need right now. And like, oh, don't forget to balance yourself out, do the other side. So that's where like I fall into like a routine there, and then it's like off to bed. I've tried, and I'm trying, and I continue to try to reduce screen time at night. Just because of the blue light, and Bree has been pushing me. She doesn't know it, but she's been pushing me.
Oh,
yes. Bree's been doing a really good job of, and also like the other thing is like, don't, like, you need to change your expectations too around like your relationships. I think that's important, right? Like, if I text someone, I don't expect a response immediately, and I know a lot of people do. Right, like, we have our lives, we have our routines, and during my routine, if I'm not going to respond to you, and if you expect me to, like, you got it all wrong. Mm-hmm. And for Bree, one of her routines is, I know she gets away from blue lights at night, and sometimes like I have a thought at like 10 o'clock at night, and I text her. I do not ever expect, and I hope she knows this, and I'm telling her now in person, but I hope she knows that, like, I never expect a response. Right, I expect a response when she gets to her phone and she gives me a response. And that's for most things, right? Like, this idea that we always need our phone on, and that, oh, what if an emergency happens? How often do emergencies happen in your life? Mm-hmm. Not often in mine. And most like emergencies, like my friend just gave birth, and that was an expected emergency that we knew because I had to take care of her current child, mm-hmm. When she gave birth. So it was something I was waiting for, and like I had specifics in place to make sure like she was added to my favorites. When my phone goes on do not disturb, if you guys don't know, you have a do not disturb on your phone, and your favorites can still get through. Mm-hmm. Right? And so there's things in place to help you through your routines and help you handle emergencies. But often emergencies aren't really a thing. Like, I think that's funny, and I think that it takes stepping back and looking at yourself and looking at your life to see what an emergency is.
And I think just like the expectations component that you're saying is this like instant response. And I encourage you to use, if you're the receiver of a non-responder, so I text someone and it takes them a day to get back to me, there is an opportunity to see your own crap that's inside of like, what are the meanings you're putting to it? Like there's the craziness of the mind of someone doesn't respond and where do you go with that?
Yeah.
Right? Like that is a growth opportunity beyond belief in like modern day, because we expect things to happen immediately. And then when they don't, we are quick to put a meaning or 100 different meanings. And then we physiologically feel those meanings to be true in our body.
Oh, did I make you mad? Like how often?
You're like, oh, is that person pissed off?
So,
like,
right.
and then you can't go to sleep at night.
No. Yeah.
Why? Because you're sitting there like wondering why this person hasn't texted you back.
And they're sleeping. They went to bed early that night, right? Like, or they needed some alone time and they didn't want to respond, right? Like, or maybe they're mad. Maybe it's not
out of reception,
right? Like, right. There's so many things, and it's funny how we go to that worst case thought on ourselves, right? Like the only one that thinks about you as much as you is you. That's it. Right? Like no one else is thinking about you, right? Like it's so fun. Like, this applies to like yoga class, but like, oh, I don't want to look stupid. No one's looking at you. I promise you that. Everyone else is looking at themselves because they all have that same thought. Like, oh shit, like, does these yoga pants make me look fat? My double chin, like whatever it is, right? Like you are your biggest critic and no one's looking at you. I promise you. Like, and if they are, they got problems.
That's their shit.
Yeah, that's their shit, right? For sure. So I go into my night routine. Like I make my way upstairs to bed. So before I get to bed, I do have tea. I have tea every night. Years ago as a child, I heard about, and I have no clue if this is science-based or what, right? Like this is just something I've done for a while because I heard, right, like the Asian culture, right? If you notice how much they drink hot beverages, hot tea, especially with their food, it like prevents heart disease. Again, I have no clue if that's true or not. They say like the hot beverages keeps your food hot and right, doesn't clog arteries, that type of thing. I have no clue if there's any validity to that, right? So but what I do is every night I have a non-caffeinated tea. I sit down, and again I go back to reading, and I'll pick up my phone or a book, and it just depends on what I'm interested in reading in that moment. And I have my tea and I read, and it usually involves one of my dogs, or multiple of my dogs, and just again filling up my cup. And coming back to myself, and my phone goes off or goes on to do not disturb, and the chance of you getting a hold of me in those moments is very unlikely. Or if sometimes I'll see the message come through if I'm looking at my phone, and you're still not going to get a hold of me, right? I'm still not going to respond because it's not your agenda at this point. Now we're back to my agenda, and after that I make my way upstairs to my bedroom, which is very dark. If you do not have a dark bedroom, work on that, right? I feel like a dark bedroom where you sleep, right? That also impacts your sleep patterns. We have blackout curtains that extend past our windows. We have all sorts of things in our room. Like it is pitch black, no TV in our bedroom. I think that's one of the biggest issues that a lot of people have that we used to have. We used to have a massive like 42-inch TV in our bedroom, right? And the thing just makes the whole room glow. What do you even need a light for? Our bathroom light switch is dimmable, right? So I can control the brightness of our lights in our bathroom. So I go through my midnight or my nightly routine, which is, shower, brush my teeth. I have eye cream. I gotta keep my bags away from my eyes. I put on my eye cream. If I shave, I have to shave. I put on lotion, right? Like I got to take care of my skin, even though my skin's like awful. Right. So I just do all these things that, I try to take care of myself, and then I make my way to bed. And, at that point I definitely try not to look at my phone. And then, right, I make sure my alarms are set before my bed, because I do use my phone as my alarm. And then sometimes I'll read. I have a bedtime light on my bed. I'll even read a little bit more in bed, and then off to sleep. And that's most of my day.
Nice.
Yep. What you were giving me funny looks about my eye cream.
No. I feel like that's more normal. I like don't use any like I actually just started occasionally I'll use some I have this like lotion stick. And now sometimes at night I'll use it because I'm like, it's only when I can tell that my skin is considerably dry. But I came from the school of if my lips are chapped or my skin is dry, it's because I'm not drinking enough water. And and sometimes there's a wind burn.
Yeah, I was going to say, like that's great, except when you're out and it's 40-mile-an-hour winds and -2 degrees.
Yeah, but I'm just like, I don't even like wash my face with soap.
Yeah.
I'm like pretty, I've tried to go into tried to be the person who did all those things. I was like, this is just not me. This is just, I don't do
and that works for you.
Nope.
That works for you, right?
Yeah. I also don't wear makeup, and so I'm not having to take things that are clogging my pores like off of my skin. Like I can see how someone who wears makeup during the day might at night need to wash their face with soap because you have to get all whatever's on it off. But I don't. If I do wear makeup, it's probably going to be on my face for a few days. So
that's funny.
The occasion that I do have to, but not have to, that I choose to. But should I go reverse? Should I start with my night routine?
Yeah, why not? Let's Tarantino this.
It's funny. My night routine is slowly coming to a routine. It's something that I was established a morning routine a lot. I don't know if I'd say easier, but my night routine it's like I want a night routine, and I don't have maybe as much discipline around it, or it has a general idea. But as Alan mentioned, not being on my phone, if I can do like an hour before going to bed, I do that. And it's not necessarily just blue light. It's actually, the phone is like, I think also just stimulates different parts of the brain, like the blue light component. But typically on the phone, even if you're like reading something online, there's going to be like ads, there's just inundation. And so for me, it's more of the stimulation of content that is, I'm trying to not have my brain be thrown all these different things at it.
Other
to
people's
process.
agendas.
And I don't have a TV in my house or apartment at all. I even for a long time kind of stopped even watching like Netflix or YouTube things. Now I've built in, on occasion, I will watch something in the evening, but it's usually like I just was watching a series, Young Pueblo, who is a poet and meditator that I found on Instagram. He released a 6-video series, and each video is about 30 minutes, and each video has a theme. And so first it's just his background, and then they talk about meditation, and they talk about creativity, relationships. And I had a few evenings where I just like watch one of those videos or like part of one of those videos. So I do have my, my screen up. I set it so my phone and my computer like turn to the yellow tint or whatever after I think 7:00.
Yep.
But my evening, I started to implement a tea routine for my evenings and ashwagandha. And so I'll either do chamomile or attention tamer tea in the evening after dinner. I also have been doing intermittent fasting and really cutting off my meals. I do an 8-hour window, which is not, I feel like a lot of people do a smaller window, but I do my 8-hour window, and typically it's 12 to 8 that I eat. I've noticed if I can get my dinner in before 7, it's even better. Because I will in the morning still feel like I'll like burp, or like there's just stuff, you know, when I'm eating closer to 8. But so after dinner, I'll either read, I'll watch like a video that's very chill. So nothing that's going to be like action or even get me to the point of where I'm wanting to go down a rabbit hole, like look things up, or like I kind of like, I don't want to be stimulating my brain to get the wheels turning, because I am actually, my natural tendency is to be, my creativity flourishes in the evening. So actually, like, I'm a much better writer. Ideas come to me in the evening. So I struggled a lot with falling asleep because I lie there and billions of genius ideas. So many ideas would just like come to my mind, and then I would spin off in those ideas. Like, how can I make this happen? What can I do? Like all the planning, like logistics, like things would go. And so I think there's a level of playing to your strengths. Like, I hate that people say like, you have to wake up early because the most successful people wake up at 4 a.m. No, the most successful people play to their strengths when they're going to be most successful. Yes, you can train yourself to be I can train myself to be more creative in the evening or in the mornings if I really wanted to. I tried that for a while. I did like a morning 7 a.m. writing routine like years ago. And granted, yes, I was able to start writing more in the evenings, or in the, gosh, even my subconscious is telling me I'm an evening creativity person. But all that to say, like, falling asleep hasn't always been an easy thing for me. And it's not always easy still. But so establishing these routines helps me move into the state of rest. And that's what it is. Like, don't stimulate the brain. Turn the phones off, because you're texting. It's like this bombardment. And then the tea really helps for me to calm and just slow things down. If I don't watch something, I'll draw. That's been part of my quest over the last year and a half, has been tapping back into my creativity. And so putting on some music and drawing has been another great aspect to my evening routine. Or reading. And then I don't sleep with my phone in my bedroom. So as you had mentioned, the dark curtains, creating a space for sleep. Just in general, my apartment is designed for their specific purposes. And so I think whatever you do, like create the space for sleep, you'll be more successful at sleeping if it's dedicated to that. So you can even see there's my bed. And then I do have my yoga space, which is right next to it, which also helps with the creating less barriers for my morning routine. And then when I sleep with my phone in the living room, I just have 2 rooms in my apartment. And I got a alarm clock that has it's like a sunrise alarm clock. So it actually has a light that I can put on. And this is where I'm inconsistent. Is I have a journal in the evenings where I write the date, what part of the moon cycle we're in. I then just write energy, and then I write just a few short words of like what my energy was like for the day. So focused, distracted, not motivated, productive. Sometimes I write more than just like one or a few words. I'll like write sentences, but it's very brief and short, just to like encapsulate the day. Sometimes it's like morning productive, evening sluggish, or hungry all day, or
I didn't even talk about my journal.
I know that's
I know.
I mean, do you want to talk about
it? Just
after
it's my journal is really easy. I don't have a set routine with it. My journal is never far from me, and I'm always in it. That's it. Like, if I have a thought, I'm usually going to write it down. And if I do something, or like, I'm probably gonna write it down. Or like if I'm thinking about something, like if I have an idea, I'm gonna write it down, because the biggest lie, I think the biggest lie we tell ourselves is, I'm gonna remember that. And right, like I know that I'm not, and like I write it down. And if I have feelings about something, and sometimes I'll write in the mornings, after something I read. Sometimes I'll write in the evenings. I mean, it's just, my journal is always with me. And when I went hunting, my journal was always in my pack. It's like the necessity, right? Because like if I find myself sitting and thinking, and then I'll pull out my journal and just start writing in it. So for me, it's not a grab your journal at this time, during this part of your morning routine. For me, it's my lifeline, both as a way to write in and read. Right? Like, how often do we actually go back and read about what we wrote? And what did you write a year ago from today? And for me, that's given me a lot of perspective, because like I haven't read a year ago from today, but in instances where I've looked back like a year, oftentimes it's like I've wrote what I wanted, and now I have it, and I like don't realize that I've had it, and like, oh shit, like a year ago I didn't have this thing, and now I do, and now I'm bitching about it, like right. So it's just funny how that works, like with hunting. Like last September, I looked back a year, and a year prior to last September, it was like, I can't wait to get out there and be hunting and be in the mountains and do this. And then I was hunting, and I was being all miserable, and like, just like my feet hurt. And I'm like, wait, this is exactly what I wanted. Like, how are you handling things when you get what you want? And like, that was like a big eye opener for me. So, not only writing in your journal, but reading your own journal is really important, I think. So,
yeah. I have like 5 journals. So like, that's my night journal. I mean, and that, honestly, I really do. That just like lives by the side of my bed. And it's more of that I wanted to start, like I had these periods where I was so exhausted and I couldn't understand why. And so I did it as like a tracking method. I was like, is it something I'm eating? Is it like female cycle hormonally? Is it the moon? Like, trying to just, is it my mind? Like, is it times where like maybe I'm seeing if there's any tendencies or trends? And so I don't actually like write about like thoughts or ideas or things that like come to me in that journal. It's strictly, so I do, like I said, date, moon cycle, energy, and then I do write 3 things I'm grateful for, and then I write what I want to share with the world. And so that's for the next day. So every night I go to bed writing just a short little thing of what I want to share with the world, so then when I go to bed it resonates, and then the next day I can share that with the world. And it's not those things that I write about sharing with the world are things like listening, or bravery, or laughter, it's not this necessarily, I'm going to do 5 yoga nidras and it's just what like energy, what am I taking with me? And that gives me an intention for the day. And lately I've actually kind of had the same thing for a longer period of time, whereas before I'd be like, okay, what do I want to share with the world tomorrow, and I'd write it down. And I've lately just been like, this is really like what I want to commit myself to. Like, I had 3 or 4 weeks of it was just like, listen and be present, and so that is like, when I travel, I'm not as good with it. I'm becoming better, but that's my like night journal, and it's super teeny. So, and it's broken down by days, which makes it, just easier to have it for that. And occasionally I'll write like 1 or 2 extra sentences randomly if there's something I want to remember, or like have in correlation with that energy aspect. So that's what I do. And then I put it away. I see what time it is and turn off my light, and then I sleep really well. most of the time.
That's
I do
awesome.
have, I do have times where I don't. Like, it's not always I'm not trying to like brag about my sleep, but
Brag.
I'm really,
Get it.
I'm like a really, I'm a really good sleeper. But I'm also like fascinating enough, like as much as I go into, like I'm a deep sleeper to the point where if I fall asleep, I don't move a lot in my sleep. So I share this with, if I put earplugs in, I'll pull them out in the middle of the night, put them in my hand, and in the next morning, they're still in my
your
hand.
That's wild.
Yeah, like I haven't moved at all. Like I'm like a corpse.
If I went to bed with earplugs in and I woke up in the middle of the night to take them out, I wouldn't know where they were.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, and I had a period, I like put it in my pocket or something, because like that's the typical thing to lose it. But there's nights where it's like in my hand,
That's
and I'm
funny.
like wake up the next day, I was like, oh, they're there.
That's
Cool. But at the same time, I also am very, as deep as I sleep, I'm also a sensitive sleeper, interesting enough. And so I'm sensitive to, I am sensitive to noise.
Yep.
And so I'll go, and I think it's hard. It's more alerting for me because I fall super deep, and then this noise comes in and it pulls me from this super deep state to like waking. So that is like the flip side, is like I'm like a deep light sleeper, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I go super hard and deep, but I'm sensitive to like movement. Like if I'm sharing my bed and someone moves or they get up, like I don't sleep through someone like getting up to go to the bathroom.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah. But then I can drop back into, yeah. So then morning comes and I've been trying to, I trained myself to remember my dreams. And that's something I think we can gain some wisdom. And I really do believe in there's some power in remembering your dreams and what comes to you in those states, intuition and just signs. And before I was into more of these like deeper spiritual practices, I had some crazy like foretelling dreams that, and then I just never really cared about them. I mean, and so it's like now that I'm deeper into that, I am revisiting like what are my dreams telling me. So in the morning when I wake up, if I'm waking up to an alarm, I have my sunrise alarm clock. So I can set it 10, 20, or 30 minutes in advance. And a light comes on. So if I want to wake up at 6:30 a.m., a light can come on at 6:10.
Yeah.
And then slowly gets brighter. If I don't wake up to the light, an alarm clock, like I have birds tweeting.
Yeah. I love that idea of that o'clock. The issue I have is that I share a bed with someone else who does not wake up at the same time as me. And,
Yeah.
Right. So
But how does that work with your phone? They're going to hear your phone.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Oftentimes she hears it before I do too. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good call out. Yeah. I'm gonna have to think about that one.
You do you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying like that. It's not going to be any more. The only thing that might be is if it's on your side, you might actually wake up to it before her potentially.
Yeah.
I think the idea is that it's waking you up in a lighter stage of your sleep.
Yeah.
Typically, sometimes the light actually like plays into my dream, and then I like am opening. And I actually try to spend a period of time between states. So even today we talked like in the breath we talked about transitions, but there's something really magical between the state of sleeping and waking. Part of me spending time in that is to remember my dreams. So I kind of like go over the dream that I was having. And then so that I can remember it, because it's almost like when you wake up into that waking state, it's like almost everything can just disappear.
Yeah.
And so I soak up that period of sometimes to the point where I like am now dreaming or thinking that I'm getting up and doing all of my morning stuff. but I was still in bed.
Interesting. Total outer
like,
body experience.
I haven't done that yet. Okay, I should probably open my eyes now.
That's funny.
So I'll open my eyes, and then I will typically grab my dream. I have another journal for my dreams. And if I can remember it, I'll write it. And there's times where I don't really remember it, and I'm like, I shouldn't write it because I don't really remember details. But I now have just been like, just write a few words, like write what you remember, even if it's just like the person or who was there or where it was. Put it down, because they say the more that you practice writing it down and remembering it, the more you'll remember your dreams.
Yeah.
And so since I implemented that, I actually like remember my dreams almost every single morning.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Do you get your dreams analyzed, or do you like read books to analyze them, or like anything like that?
I analyze them, not every single dream. I start to notice, I try to see what's going on in my life, and then if there's like consistencies. Patterns. So I had a period where there was like water was a prevalent piece of every single one of my dreams, and there's pretty like significant ties to like spirituality and then even in my own practices of this idea of like returning to the ocean, which is like the oneness, the source, the light, versus being distracted as like the waves or forms of life, which is like our stories, even our physical body, everything that is impermanent are the waves, but the ocean is always underneath. And all these, like, I had a period of really like a lot of water imagery throughout dreams. I had a wild dream. Like I had this dream that I was like surfing and I was out somewhere surfing, insignificant until then. That morning I started a new book, and on the first page the guy was like on a beach and then went surfing, and I was like, what the heck?
Interesting.
And then like this film came across Alaska Sessions, which is like a surf film in Alaska, like that day came across my radar, and it was like, okay, like, all right.
Clearly this is in my life. Yeah.
Yeah. Because water can also be like emotional processing. But I don't like have someone who analyzes them, but I'll pay attention if also something is pretty like jarring. I'll dive into it personally. But it's more of just to see like what are some themes that are occurring, and then what's going on in my life. If there's any like relation. Or the dream that I had in college was when I was traveling. I was with some friends. We had gone, our plan was to go from London to a couple cities in Italy and then to the Netherlands. And while I was on that trip, I had a dream that I was back from the trip, and someone was like, how was it? What was your favorite part? We're talking about, and they're like, how was the Netherlands? And I was like, I don't know. I actually like didn't go. We didn't make it there. And we were in Rome about flying out the next day for the Netherlands, and we got an email that one of our friends had died. And so the next morning we flew from Rome back to the US instead of going to the Netherlands. And it was just like really wild. And I've had some dreams where I like kind of freaked, like that have involved people and death. And it's like, I call them when I have those, because I'm like, whoa, like, okay. But that's where the symbolism comes in, is like death can be a death of a part of you, or it could be, one that I had about someone was, now reflecting back, was they were in a really dark place. And so it wasn't that they physically died, but they were dead. Like they were living, but they were, and anyway, that's a little tangent of kind of can be really neat about exploring these intuitions, or exploring the things that come up when your brain is no longer controlled by your waking state. So dream journal, and then I open all of the blinds in my room, and I greet the earth, honoring the earth in all four directions and elements, and the unseen world. And then I have these animal spirit cards by Kim Crayons, and I got them initially because part of my quest to tap back into my creativity was the art on these cards are just phenomenal. Like her art is so beautiful. And so I got them just to kind of inspire me, and then decide I just do a card a day in the morning. So after I like honor the earth, close my eyes, and I just like say like, what energy are you bringing me today? Or like, what should I think about or contemplate, shuffle them. And then it's the purpose of it is just to be thoughtful about it, is just to like think about what comes up. Again, noticing my reaction. Like I got an upside down mouse this morning. I was like, oh, I want the eagle, you know? And so like, that's the thing is like, and when I was shuffling, I was like, I bet I'm going to get I like manifested the mouse.
The mouse, you absolutely did.
I was like, I bet I'm going to get just like, cause I'm starting my, this certification, and it's like, today is like the first day of this new course I'm taking, and it's like really powerful. And then as I was shuffling, I was like, I bet you I'm going to get some freaking stupid card. And I got the mouse, and I was like, yep, there we go.
That's funny. Well, what does the mouse symbolize? What powers do the mouse have?
So the mouse, like when in balance, it's like attention to detail, but out of balance is like nitpicky, like not having kind of like a direction. And to get into balance is like a meaningful project, like finish a take on a purposeful project. And
sounds like
it's
exactly
like
what you need for the next 7 days.
Yeah.
Right.
But it was, it's like nitpicky or like all these things when and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. So I just like to like read and then kind of just think about it and see how it's relevant, if it's relevant. Sometimes it comes up like throughout the day, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I go to bed like, what card did I pick today? And then I just do some movement. So it took me a while to get to the point of like establishing this routine and having all parts of it. And I really like coffee. And so sometimes I'm like, oh, I really just want to get to coffee time of my routine. I'm like, no. This is what you do.
That's why coffee is like one of the first things I do, because I love coffee.
But it's like, it's a good discipline. Like for me, it's that discipline. It's like, I know. And that's where I think routines are so important. Habits are so important because it becomes a non-negotiable. It's no longer, do I do this or do I not? It's, I do this. This is what I do every morning.
Every morning. That's what I do.
No matter like the pull away from it or the excitement for it. There's always excitement for my coffee time, but it's like, and so from cards, I just do basic sun salutations, and I'll do a round with a low lunge, or a round with a crescent lunge, a round with warrior 2, and a round with warrior 1. So it's very short. It's like 10 minutes. Well, I do actually breath work first, do Kapalabhati, breath of fire to like start activating my core, activating my nervous system. And then I do 3 rounds of Kapalabhati, and then sometimes I do like I think they call it like a box breathing, like Wim Hof's like
4, 4,
it's
4,
like
4.
It's not 4, 4, 4, 4, but it's this like circular continuous, and so it's oxygenating the blood. It's like heavy inhales and exhales, like full expansion and release, and then I'll pause at the end without a breath.
Got it.
In that stillness of like holding my breath, but not with strain. And that's like a really, after like oxygenating the blood and sitting, like you feel some pretty like intense stillness, which is what, again, what you were saying, like mind wanders, but it's like, then I come back and I feel that stillness.
Yeah.
And then I do my sun salutations, and then my coffee routine. I hand grind. I do a single cup. And I just got an AeroPress a few weeks ago. And that's
those are awesome.
I just had like a little like 1 cup drip, pour over type of thing. But I switched to AeroPress. But I hand grind my beans, and that's part of like water is boiling. I'm grinding my beans, like just an intimate process.
It's almost meditative,
relationship with the process. What's that?
It's almost meditative.
Yeah, it's
monotasked. Right?
Monotasking, and then I put my beans in and pour it, and then I typically will, well, the Whoop strap has messed up my no phone thing.
Yeah.
So now I do open Whoop so that it can start processing my sleep.
Yep.
So before I had Whoop, I just would not even touch my phone until I've read for like at least 30 minutes, depending on if I get up early enough. If I'm not setting an alarm and I wake up early enough, I'll read for an hour. So I just drink my coffee and read. And then after I do all of that, then I will open my phone and start like tending to whatever, whether it's emails or texts or, but I'm very diligent. Like I want to start with a very calm, peaceful state. And I find the phone just is just instant stimulation.
Yeah.
That I don't want in my brain.
The phone's aggressive too, especially like with texts and emails, and if you're not monitoring that, it can be very aggressive because it's there, it's in your face, and the dinging if you're a dinger, right, or the buzzing, or the like if you have the alerts that pop up like while you're reading stuff, like ding, like it's boom, it's there. So it's really an aggressive function of our lives.
Constant distraction too. So it's like when I am reading something on my phone, now a text comes up and it's like, oh, I'm going to go read that text. Like it's exactly what you said. It was monotasking, or even the power of meditation today in modern society is the fact that we have so many external distractions, let alone the distractions of our mind. And we have trained our mind to follow those distractions.
Yep.
We are walking the dog, but the dog is walking us.
Yeah.
The dog is pulling us, and versus us walking the dog.
Yep.
And that's what I feel technology and social media and just the nature of our phones, because it's not bad. None of it is bad. It's that we have lost control.
Right. Absolutely. It makes me think of this mythical tale that I've heard. It's really short, but I heard it recently and I really connected with it. It was, there's this guy walking along a dirt road, and up ahead he sees a horse with a man on the horse running full speed at him. And it's a really narrow road. So this horse is just running at him. Man on the horse is just riding this horse, and the guy steps aside to let this guy on this horse pass through, and he's like, "Hey, buddy, where are you going?" And the man on the horse responds, "I don't know, ask the horse." And yeah, to me, like, that's how I connect with exactly what you just said. Like, we are, like, who's driving? Who's in control? And yeah, like people who say, "Oh, social media is bad." It can be bad if you let it be, right? Or, oh, this is bad, that's bad. Nothing is inherently bad or good. It's how we use it, right? Again, it's tools and how we use them.
Yeah. And I think what you said, like good or bad, it's none of it. And there's definitely things that serve us or hinder us. And I wouldn't say either is good or bad either. Like I wouldn't say serve us as good and hinder us as bad, because bad things, quote unquote, bad things happen that end up serving us, right? It's that growth mindset of, but hindering, I mean, I would, I guess, classify the hindering would be the mindlessness. I think mindlessness, the unconscious drive, like the horse, right, taking you is are going to be more hindering, not for our everyday habits that help us survive, like knowing how to drive in the city. Like if we had to relearn that every day, that would hinder us. Yeah, because our energy is being allocated to something that doesn't need to be relearned, you know. Absolutely. And so it's really those habits that have formed that are controlling us without even knowing. But that's part of, like, again, these routines, even to the point where, like, I wear the same thing every single day.
Yeah.
I don't really care to put energy into that decision. I try to automate as much as I can, and not in a way that it's mindless. But we only have the capacity for so much. And so if my decision-making capacity is going towards what I'm going to wear, and in my world, it's not significant. Someone in the fashion industry could be totally different. Then it's being taken from another more significant decision for me.
Yeah.
And, and so it just makes life a lot easier for me, and it allows, and I'm mindful through those kind of automated aspects of my life. I actually get to put more energy into what I'm doing versus contemplating if I should be doing this or not.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but that's, I mean, the middle of the day is, for me, there's no, trying to think if there's any other, like, routines that I build in. Switching my breakfast routine was really a tough when I moved into my 12 and 16 and 8. So 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating. I love breakfast. It was typically something I would do right after I, maybe not even finish my coffee, but I would make breakfast after I read a little bit, and I shift that a little bit. I don't know how long ago. It's fairly recent. So not eating till after 12, but I still eat breakfast foods at 12.
Yep.
But that was like a new habit to establish. And I think it's actually helped my sleep in that when you're eating all day, you're constantly working. And same thing we just talked about, energy going to one thing is being taken from something else. And so energy going towards digesting is taking energy away from other things. And so I've really feel this 16 and 8 has helped me free up my capacity to do other things.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And a mind practice, right? It's like, I feel hungry. It's not that I don't feel hungry first thing in the morning. I've been doing this for, a month or so, and I wake up hungry. It doesn't take away that, but I know that I can survive until 12 o'clock.
It's being in that discomfort.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the empathy part of that wouldn't be giving you food.
Yeah.
Right. Like the empathy part is just recognizing that you're hungry. Right. And like we can even be talking about empathy with ourselves. Right. The empathy part is just realizing, yeah, I'm hungry. Great. And recognizing the discomfort and then continuing on.
The empathy thing it's been sitting with me since Tuesday. And it just, I had read something, I watched, I was part of some seminar, like pre-recorded seminar thing, and it talked about compassion versus empathy. And because empathy is almost like, is making the situation bad, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's a level of pity too, and there's another video that talks about, like, pity is like the worst thing you can do for someone.
Yep.
Because of how disempowering it is.
Absolutely.
And victimizing. Pity is like victimizing. And so I think there's a level of, like, empathy is victimizing someone, saying, like, yeah, you are that is your situation is really crappy, versus being like, man, this is just what is, and just like having compassion for the suffering that might come with it, or
Absolutely.
the discomfort or the pain. And
or maybe our view on empathy is that like what you said, like that pity, right? Where maybe we need to change what our view on empathy is. And that's where this got me thinking is, wow, like how, right, empathy is not meant to ease discomfort. How often do we see ourselves, our friends, our family struggling, and we want to help ease their discomfort? And that's That's not what it's supposed to be, right? Because then again, it's that victim, right? It's that victim mentality. And yeah, no, there's, right, whatever it is that you want to accomplish, there's a level of discomfort. Whatever it is that you're going through, there's going to be discomfort, and it's just understanding that, yeah, you're going to go through
and
some
empathy
discomfort.
is like, technically it's like you feel for the person, like you're in their shoes. And so there's also an element of like diminishing their experience, because like I can't feel what you're feeling.
Right.
And so by me like being empathetic, saying that I am feeling what you're feeling is like also just diminishing your own experience, versus compassion is saying like, I'm not going through this, but I'm here. Like, it must be hard. Like, and acknowledging the toughness, but not diminishing it because like you're trying to put yourself in their shoes of feeling it.
Yeah. And no matter what, like, even if you've been through a similar situation, like my dad died. Well, if your dad died, it's still two different experiences. Our relationships with our fathers might be different. Right, like, just because it's a similar scenario, a similar situation, doesn't mean it's the same. It doesn't mean you've been in their shoes and you understand their problems. And right, like, it's all different, right? Everything leading up to that moment has been different for that person. So you can never, right? Again, like I go back to that 1 = 1. It doesn't, right? There is no one, right? One is never one again, and it can never be one again. And therefore, right? Like, how can you say, oh, I know that feeling?
Yeah.
You might know a feeling similar, but you don't know what they're going through. You'll never see it and walk a mile in their shoes. You can't.
Yeah.
Even if their shoes fit, you can't walk a mile in their shoes.
And that's, I think, what you said is so significant. And I think there's definitely a benefit of community for people who have had similar experiences. However, at any point, they are never the same. And I think it's important to start to think about our verbiage when we're talking to people around those situations. And even though it comes from a good place,
Does it?
Again, like, allow them to because now you're also making it about you. You're taking away, right? It's just like, listen, and you can acknowledge like this, like, I try to say like, I can't even imagine what you might be feeling. You know, and even if you've had a similar experience, maybe sometimes you want to share it and you say, I experienced it this way and this is what I did. It could work for you. It could not. But not doing it to take away from how you're showing up from that person and taking away from their own feelings and experience of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you said something like, like it's comes from a good place. Does it? That's what we've been programmed to think, is like, oh yeah, no, it comes from a good place. Well, maybe we need to reanalyze, like, what is that good place, right? Yeah, our intentions might be pure, like, oh, I just want to comfort and console this person, and I'm going to do so by sharing my experience. But, is that what they need in the moment? And even in something that's not like hard or uncomfortable, like after you've done something that is super powerful. And right, one of the things, my wife corrected me on this. So my niece, she's growing older, right? She turned 18 and now she's 21, and she's like experiencing life. And I always used to tell her, I'm so proud of you. And my wife stopped me. She's like, stop saying that. And I'm like, why? But I'm proud of her. But she's going to latch onto that. Like, they're always looking to this external source for someone to be proud of you. And so now I've changed my verbiage to, like, you can still be proud of someone, right? But I've changed my verbiage to, wow, you must be so proud of yourself. Right. And it changes the language, and at times, so I try to leave out the I'm proud of you part, but at times I'll say, wow, you must be so proud of yourself. I'm also proud of you too. Right. So,
Yeah.
so it's not just empathy in the hard moments, but it's how do we show empathy in the good moments too? And like, are we distracting? Are we diminishing their value? Are we making our right? Like, like I said earlier, I don't need to give you permission to be selfish. Right. Like, I don't matter in your life, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. But like, give yourself permission to be selfish. Like, that's great. Like, give yourself the ability to be proud of what you've accomplished, and there's power in that.
Yeah.
So your your day, have you gone through everything? Yeah.
I know. I was kind of thinking. I was like, this is like this feels like a moment to end on.
Yeah, for sure. I think that we need to do maybe another part of this. Maybe not necessarily an episode of it, but I feel like there's routines also that we didn't get into.
Like, and again, we talked about doing systems and
like routines for hunting, bow hunting, rifle hunting, exercise, eating. I think there's routines built into many aspects of our day, or lack of routines, and maybe that's why we don't have discipline and why we can't do things. So I think that
I think definitely we could do definitely like habits and systems and discipline, expand on those kind of concepts.
Absolutely. But yeah, let's
part one today.
All right, let's wrap up. So grab your journals, journal prompt. Grab your journals.
One of your 5.
Right, one of your 5. Your diary, right? Your little lock and key. Right. Again, I have a journal like right in front of me. Again, it's never far. It is never far from me. It is at least it's within sprinting distance in most cases. That's how important my journal is for me. So right, like, grab it and write one word, right? Take breeze, right? There's no way, just like there's no way to meditate, right? There's no one way to meditate. There's no one way to journal. And if you want to carry your journal with you, like I do, in every moment, do that. But like, grab it right now though. No matter what you do, grab it right now and write what you're thinking about in the episode. And if you don't have a journal, if you still haven't gotten a journal, 5 episodes in, then what I want you to do is at least grab your phone and open the notes page. I'd prefer you to remove it from your phone, right? Because we've talked a lot about phones today, and right, that distraction, and you're going to start writing your note, and then someone's going to text you, and you're going to click to that instead of writing, or social media post alert's going to come through, and you're going to click to that, or then you're going to go to your email. So maybe write about all this that I'm talking about, but grab your phone, open the journal, unless you're driving. If you're driving, pull over and then do all this. But write your thoughts. Write your thoughts about what we've talked about, and questions, and just, maybe it's full paragraphs, maybe it's a story, maybe it's something that you want to do, maybe it's a new routine you want to set up in your life, and maybe you need to write about. So I've noticed I use the word maybe a lot, and it's definitely conscious. I use the word maybe because most things in life are maybe. Most things in life aren't yes or no. And maybe you need to try this on. Maybe you need to see how that works for you. And so maybe try this out and try it out for an extended period of time, not 3 days and tell me it doesn't work, because that's bullshit. But maybe you need to pull out your journal at a specific time of the day and write your thoughts and write your routine and write about what barriers are in the way of that, and to make it easy for you. So for my friend who couldn't meditate until I told her, just sit on your couch. I don't care how you're sitting. You can cross your legs. You can try to hover in lotus pose. You're not going to be very comfortable, but write the barriers that are in the way of that routine, and then write how you can get rid of those barriers and what the steps are to start your routine. And back to New Year's resolutions, don't fucking wait till January 1st. Tomorrow's a new day. Tonight's a new night, right? Start it today, right? If you want to start a morning routine, yeah, morning routine might be over. Try tomorrow, right? And if you fail, try again tomorrow and try again the next day and the next day. And you just continue to try and give yourself grace when you don't do it, and then try again. And then maybe you'll succeed. And then maybe the day after that, you'll fail, but just continue to try and continue to write about that until it becomes that built-in habit, and be happy with yourself on the journey.
Be proud.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Bree,
you.
always a pleasure talking to you. Love our conversations.
See where it goes, you never know.
All right.
See ya.
See ya.
If you want to follow us and our adventures, you can find both of us on Instagram. I'm at Bree Allison. That's BreAllison.
And I am at The Life of Alan Tatone, underscores between each word. To check out our offerings, yoga, one-on-one trainings, workshops, retreats, and a recorded library, you can find the info on our website, thehunterandthehippie.com.
If you have questions for the podcast, about the podcast, feedback, suggestions, or just want to say hi, or find ways to work with us, our email is thehunterandthehippie@gmail.com. And don't worry, all of this will be in our show notes.
Thanks for tuning in
Hopefully you weren't tuned out.
to the Hunter and the Hippie podcast.